So today we'll be talking about we have completed our renal pathology and we'll start with genital system. We'll start off with the male genital system and the first disorder, and that is cryptorchidism. Cryptorchidism. Okay. Cryptorchidism is another term for undescended testes. So normally, 4 to 6 weeks before birth, testes will normally completely descend down into the scrotal sac in a baby, in a male baby that is about to be born. Right? In some conditions, what will happen is the descent will not occur properly. Now, this occurs in 0.2% of all adult males. Okay, the whole population of adult males, amongst them 0.2% of people will suffer from cryptorchidism, undescended testes. 70% of the cases of this undescended testis, it will lie in the inguinal ring itself. So normally the testis has to pass through your inguinal ring, go through inguinal canal and come down into your scrotal sac. Now यहाँ पर क्या होता, this testes can be either in the inguinal ring where it is stuck there, or in 25% of the cases it will be stuck in the abdomen. Okay, and the remaining 5% will be somewhere between intra-abdominal location and scrotal sac. So from top to bottom it has to go from your abdomen through your inguinal canal to your scrotal sac. ठीक है, यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा, in 70% of the patients, 70% of cases, undescended testis is in testis is in the inguinal ring. Okay, so mostly it will get stuck in the inguinal ring, or 70%. In 25% of the cases, it will be stuck in abdomen. Okay, rest 5%, 5% location between, anywhere in between abdomen and scrotal sac. So they have not completely descended in the scrotal sac. In all of these cases, they have not descended in the scrotal sac, but in specifically in those 5%, it can be anywhere in between the abdomen and scrotal sac without descending completely. Now, the causation of this or the etiology of cryptorchidism can be divided into three main factors. Okay, so causation or etiology, there are three factors. The first factor is mechanical factors. Mechanical factors will include spermatic cord being very small. Okay, if the spermatic cord is short, testes cannot descend properly, or if the inguinal canal is very narrow, testes will not be able to pass through them, or if there is adhesions with the peritoneum, if the testis is stuck to the peritoneum, that is when that is also another condition in which the what do you call, testis is not able to come down. Okay, that is this thing, mechanical factors. So short spermatic cord, narrow inguinal canal, and peritoneal adhesions. Peritoneal adhesions. Okay, if the testis is stuck to the peritoneum, it will not be able to come down. Now, the second factor will be genetic factors. Now, these will include trisomy of your chromosome number 13, or it can be improper development of the scrotum, maldevelopment of the scrotum, or it can be maldevelopment of the cremaster muscles. Either way, these genetic factors will play an important role in not letting the testes descend properly. So it can be trisomy of chromosome 13, or maldeveloped scrotum, or cremaster muscles. Okay. Then the last factor that is responsible for this are hormonal factors. Now, hormonal factors may specifically deficiency of androgenic secretions. So, the deficiency in testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, any form of androgenic secretion that is responsible for descent of testes. उसमें अगर कमी हुई, if there is deficiency in those androgenic secretions, then also cryptorchidism occurs. So, deficiency in um, androgenic secretions. ठीक है. Even during development when the baby is in the womb, वहाँ पर भी there are significant amount of androgenic secretions which make sure that proper development is occurring. ठीक है. यहाँ पर those androgenic secretions fall short. There is deficiency of those androgenic secretions because of which testis is not able to descend properly. That is another what do you call reason why undescended testes occur. Now, the pathological changes that you see associated with cryptorchidism. So what happens actually in cryptorchidism? Pathological changes. Generally, cryptorchidism is unilateral. Okay, in most of the cases, it occurs only in one testis, meaning one testis has descended, the other has not. That is why it is unilateral. But in 25% of patients, it is bilateral, and as such, a cryptorchid testis, usko cryptorchid bolte, okay, it will not be developed properly. A cryptorchid testis is small in size, firm and fibrotic. So the pathological changes. Uh, It is mostly unilateral. Someone tried to ask something. I wasn't able to hear you. Please put it in the chat if you have a doubt. Before you could say anything, I only heard sounds. See, it is mostly unilateral where it is occurring in only one of these testes, but 25% of cases bilateral. Okay, bilateral cryptorchidism, wherein both the testes are not descending properly. Now, the cryptorchid testis, which is not descended, the cryptorchid testis bolte, cryptorchid testis. Okay, this fellow will be small. It can be testes or testis. Okay, TIS is a singular, TES is plural. So testis is small. Okay, it can be fibrotic and firm. Now, microscopically, if you see inside what is happening there, generally changes of atrophy occur around 2 years of age. Okay, as such, cryptorchidism is very hard to diagnose. Okay, until and unless someone is performing a physical examination, you will not be able to find cryptorchidism. You will only see clinical symptoms and all later on in the life. Okay, somewhere close to puberty, that is when the clinical symptoms of cryptorchidism will come into picture. Otherwise, it is very hard to diagnose. You only have to perform a physical exam. As such, if it has gone undiagnosed by the age of 2 years, okay, let's suppose the baby has been born with cryptorchidism. By the age of 2 years, by the time they reach 2 years of age, they will start having atrophic changes in their testes. Okay, specifically, there will be two locations which will undergo what do you call this atrophy: seminiferous tubules as well as interstitial stroma. Okay, your seminiferous tubules, they will progressively lose germ cell elements. Okay, your tubules will be lined with spermatogonia and you will have small sites of spermatogenesis, but progressive germ cell elements will be lost. Okay, in some cases you will be able to see 10% of cases you'll be able to see spermatogenesis, spermatogonia, but as such there is progressive atrophy occurring. So atrophy of firstly seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules. Okay, seminiferous tubules will undergo atrophy to an extent where there is progressive loss of germ elements. Okay, there will not be further growth as the baby is developing in the womb itself. This development starts, but it will be limited because of cryptorchidism. It'll start showing atrophy signs where it is shriveling and it is becoming weak. There is no proper growth. That is atrophy. यहाँ पर progressive germ cell elements are lost, loss of germ cell elements, and in some cases, in 10% of cases, you'll be able to see a little bit of spermatogenesis, but it will stop later on. Okay, because there is progressive loss of germ cells, you will not have continuous spermatogenesis. Germ cells will finally develop into spermatogonia and further on like that. But अगर germ cells ही नहीं है बोले तो eventually you will hit a barrier. The person will stop producing enough amount of sperms. Okay, also tubular basement membrane becomes very thick. Tubular, the seminiferous tubule का tubular surface, tubular basement membrane thickens. Okay, significantly becomes thickened. This is because of fibrosis that is occurring in that area. Now that is occurring in seminiferous tubules. In your interstitial stoma, interstitial stoma will generally have a increase in interstitial fibrovascular stroma. So fibrosis is occurring there, and sometimes you'll be able to see Leydig cells. Now these Leydig cells will be either present as a single cell or they can be present as clusters. So you will have interstitial fibrosis or interstitial fibrovascular stroma is seen. Okay, along with a few Leydig cells. It can be a single Leydig cell that is present in the sense that they can be present singly or solitary, or they can be present in clusters. Now clinical features of cryptorchidism, as I told you, it is very hard to diagnose and it will remain asymptomatic for a long period of time. Okay, until unless a physical examination is performed, it is very hard to discern cryptorchidism. Now if you are able to diagnose it in time, you can perform surgery, something called orchiopexy, and you can physically help the testes descend down. Let's suppose the patient is not undergoing such a surgical correction, under 2 years of age, or worse yet, latest if they are not undergoing that surgery in prepubertal stages. Okay, let's suppose they have cryptorchidism and they have gone undiagnosed for a while. Let's suppose at some point of time they are diagnosed, okay, in the first year or something during their physical examination. At that point of time, if you are performing surgery less than 2 years of age, or even in prepubertal age, prepubertal age ka mane 7-8 years and before puberty, okay, if you are able to perform the surgery, it is fine. Agar if you are not performing that surgery, later on there will be adverse clinical outcomes, in the sense that the patient will become sterile, there will be infertility, they will have inguinal hernias, because some of the times it will be present in the inguinal canal, right? It can lead to inguinal hernias, and sometimes it can develop into a malignancy. Cancer can develop from there. So those are the adverse clinical symptoms that you see as it develops. So clinical features upon diagnosis, or even without diagnosis, if the patient does not undergo surgical correction. Now this surgical correction is called orchiopexy. Okay, orchiopexy. It's not undergo surgical correction uh, before less than 2 years of age, or in pre-pubertal stage. They develop clinical adverse clinical symptoms, specifically adverse clinical symptoms like sterility, okay, sterility and infertility, The patient will have inguinal hernia, and the patient will develop malignancy. In the cryptorchid kidney itself or the surrounding areas near cryptorchid kidney, malignancy can develop. So that is about cryptorchidism. If you have doubts, please let me know, or else we'll move into testicular atrophy. कोई part repeat करना या something like that. I do suggest that before you read cryptorchidism, go over what is the normal passage of testes and what is the normal male reproductive system, how it works. If you know the locations, it will be easier to imagine how cryptorchidism is occurring. Okay, so next topic, a very small topic, testicular atrophy. This is technically associated with cryptorchidism. Testicular atrophy. Now, testicular atrophy is a secondary condition in the sense that it can occur primarily as well, but it is more often occurring as a secondary condition because of some other condition. So the patient has some problem. Now that problem can be, see, it occurs secondary to, it can be cryptorchidism, or it can be vascular disease. Once again, cryptorchidism. Why did this fellow come here? It can be cryptorchidism or vascular disease leading to atrophy because there is not enough blood supply to that particular testis. Okay, vascular disease, or it can be inflammatory condition. Okay, inflammatory damage occurring to the particular area, inflammatory condition, inflammatory disorders. It can also be autoimmune disorders for that matter. Inflammatory condition बोल रहे तो. It can be hypopituitarism. Hyperpituitarism. Okay, you know, pituitaries are essentially responsible for the formation of FSH and LH and other hormones which are responsible for growth of your what do you call, reproductive system. यहाँ पर if pituitary gland is not working properly, that is also when testicular atrophy occurs. Now even if they have descended, testes are normal when the person has born. ठीक है, when the baby is born, जब everything is normal, but if their pituitary is not working properly, there will not be proper development of their what do you call, reproductive organs. ठीक है, malnutrition, that's pretty much obvious. If you don't have nutrients, there will be no development. Obstruction to outflow of obstruction to outflow of semen. So any obstruction occurring all the way from your testis to the what do you call, peripheral tubules, वहां से anywhere, ठीक है, it can occur in seminiferous tubules, it can occur in epididymis, it can occur anywhere. If there is an obstruction, that can lead to atrophy or elevated female sex hormone levels. ठीक है, as such men also produce a little bit of estrogen, but technically it is controlled, okay, because there is what do you call, significantly high amounts of testosterone. The relative amount of estrogen is significantly low, and the production of estrogen is also suppressed in a way. यहाँ पर if the patient is having elevated amount of female sex hormone in a man, okay, then testicular atrophy can occur. Then another thing is that persistently high FSH levels. Okay, so for a long period of time, the patient is having high FSH levels, and let's suppose if they are taking exogenous steroid use, okay, radiation. This can be chemotherapeutic radiation or it can be external radiation as well, and chemotherapy, just to avoid confusion. Okay, so these are all the secondary causes of testicular atrophy, meaning if the patient is having cryptorchidism or vascular disease or any of these conditions, they might develop testicular atrophy down the line if these conditions are not treated. Okay, chemotherapy and radiation are not exactly something that you can treat against, because chemotherapy itself is a treatment, and Radiation, you cannot do exactly anything. The only thing that you can do is apply sunscreen, but other than that you cannot. Now radiation cannot not just be only because of sun. Some people work in industrial areas, or some people work in factories or in labs where radiation is pretty rampant. Okay, think of it this way. People who deal with x-rays as well, okay, the x-ray users and all, I'm sure you must have in your hospital, whenever there is a moving x-ray, I'm sure you must have seen it somewhere or at least heard about it. They will come to a ward and they will shout out x-ray expose or something like that. Okay, move out basically. So that is in order to guard others from what you call radiation. And also they'll be wearing special clothing. They'll not just wear normal clothing and perform x-rays. They'll be wearing something, okay, just to protect themselves from x-ray. Now continuous exposure to such radiation can also lead to problems. Okay, now primary development of testicular atrophies, how can develop primarily is by one particular disease called Klinefelter syndrome. Okay, Klinefelter syndrome, K silent. Okay, ये Klinefelter syndrome में क्या होता, see normally you have 46 pairs of chromosomes, right? You have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 total number of chromosomes, XY. यहाँ पर the last 46th chromosome will have 2x chromosomes. So the patient with Klinefelter syndrome basically is 47XXY. Okay, they have disomy of your X chromosome, wherein they have an extra set of X chromosome, leading to infertility. And it can also be, atrophy is encountered in such patients. We do not know how it is occurring, but atrophy is directly occurred in through primary development abnormality in Klinefelter syndrome patients. Okay, so that is about testicular atrophy. Now the morphological changes that occur in testicular atrophy will be similar to your cryptorchidism. Okay, there will be destruction of seminiferous tubules, degeneration of seminiferous tubules, interstitial trauma, stroma will get destroyed, it will undergo fibrosis, and it will eventually lead to similar clinical features. Okay, I'll not be discussing that again. It's similar to cryptorchidism. Now coming to the next topic, if you have doubts, please let me know. Naito will move into it. The other topic, prostatic hyperplasia. Okay, इसको benign prostatic hyperplasia भी बोलते हैं और इसको nodular hyperplasia भी बोलते हैं. There's several names. Okay, these are non-neoplastic tumors. These are benign tumors. Basically, they are enlargement of the prostate. Okay, they are termed benign nodular hyperplasia or benign enlargement of the prostate, and it is very common in men. And it is sometimes considered a normal aging process. It is very common in men above 80 years of age. As the age increases, so the frequency of BPH, इसको BPH भी बोलते हैं, benign prostatic hyperplasia है ना, तो BPH बोलते हैं इसको. Generally you'll see in hospitals the diagnosis written as BPH. So this is common in 50 years and above. Okay, men in 50 years and above, the frequency of or the incidence of this occurring increases as age increases, and the incidence will be around 75 to 80% in 80-year-old men. Okay, men above 80 years specifically. Incidence or frequency increases after 50 years of age. Incidence is, or incidence approaches 75 to 80% in men over 80 years. Okay, so the older they get, the more higher the chance of them developing benign prostatic hyperplasia. Okay, now the causation of prostatic hyperplasia is completely not understood, but there are a few factors. Endocrinological factors, endocrinological basically hormonal factors, racial factors, inflammation and atherosclerosis, they have been implicated, but the stronger basis goes for endocrinology. There might be some problem in what do you call hormones. See, the specific hypothesis, endocrinological hypothesis, has been studied a little more than the others. Okay, the causation of prostatic hyperplasia occurring because of endocrinal problems. specifically it is hypothesized that there is synergistic simulation. Mane, if the patient has, let's suppose, exposure to both estrogen and progesterone, estrogen and testosterone, while growth is occurring, especially when estrogen acting to sensitize prostatic tissue. Okay, it can sensitize prostatic tissue for DHT, dihydroxytestosterone. Whenever there is exposure to both of these, DHT and estrogen, it is hypothesized that long-term exposure can lead to prostatic hyperplasia. But again, it is not solid proof, it's only a hypothesis. In any case, the pathological changes that occur, so I'll just write etiology is obscure. Etiology is obscure, okay, not clear. Obscure ka matlab, but endocrinological, endocrinological, racial, inflammatory, and atherosclerotic basis has been hypothesized. Okay, so these might cause BPH, specifically endocrinological reason, if there is continuous exposure to estrogen and dihydroxytestosterone. See, testosterone is normally present in your body, but the active form of testosterone that is present in your body that will give some function, or which will have function at cellular levels, will be DHT, dihydroxytestosterone. Okay, now coming to the pathological changes, because it is hyperplasia, obviously the prostate will become enlarged. So as such, your prostate, the prostate of the person being affected by BPH will become nodular, it will enlarge, it will become smooth and firm, and it will enlarge to such an extent that it will weigh 2 to 4 times its normal weight. So it will weigh around 40 to 80 grams, okay, significantly higher than what it should weigh normally. Now, if you cut open this enlargement, or if you cut open this prostate when it is undergone hyperplasia, you will either see glandular tissue or you will see fibromuscular tissue. So the hyperplasia can occur in the form of glands, wherein glandular tissue is being proliferated, or it can be in the form of fibromuscular hyperplasia, similar to fibroma of uterus. Basically there will be aggregation of spindle cells. ठीक है, अगर glandular hyperplasia है तो you will have aggregation of acinar papillary infolding. So you will have small glands present inside the prostate itself. Okay, so pathological changes. Now these will be prostate becomes enlarged, nodular, smooth, and firm. Okay, it will become 2 to 4 times its normal weight and weighs around 40 to 80 grams. Okay, other than that, because it is because hyperplasia is occurring, that hyperplasia will be of two types. It can be glandular hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is either glandular, where you will see small acinar infoldings, and you will see exaggerated infoldings of papillary infoldings of glands. Okay, so you will have several layers of glands being undergoing hyperplasia and being present. That is glandular hyperplasia. Nahi to you will see spindle like cells being what you call aggregated. That is fibromuscular hyperplasia, either glandular or fibromuscular hyperplasia. In either of these cases, अगर fibromuscular रहने दो या glandular रहने दो, there is enlargement of the uh, uh, prostate. Okay, it can become very uncomfortable. If you remember, when we were discussing about antihypertensives, I told you about a drug that is used in BPH. Generally, BPH patients will not be able to urinate properly because this is present directly near your urethra. Okay, for men. यहाँ पर क्या होता है, because hyperplasia of prostate is occurring, it will start pushing on the tubes of your urinary tract, because of which it will be harder to urinate. ठीक है, So you give a drug called tamsulosin. If you remember, we were discussing about alpha blockers. In that, there was one drug called tamsulosin, which I told you is very good in case of BPH. यहाँ पर use करते हैं उसको, ठीक है? It helps the patient urinate normally. So that is about benign prostatic hyperplasia or prostatic hyperplasia. I hope you understood this. If you want me to repeat anything or if you want me to re-explain anything, please let me know, or else we'll finish the class for here. No doubts. Okay.